Is back. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. The NHL playoffs are about to kick off, and the NFL draft is right around the corner. Those four reasons are the perfect opportunity to check out bellyupsports.com. No matter what your interest, you'll find excellently written articles and fun podcasts on the sports you enjoy. So give them a shout. Check them out, bellyupsports.com.
Baseball and whatever with your host Justin McElwee.
Because I was on campus and I had to appear like I was one of the cool kids, I would put the Star Wars book inside one of my textbooks so it looked like I was just studying for class.
All right, look, there's only one return, okay? And it ain't of the king, it's of the Jedi.
Vincent Francis Jankowitz IV.
I'm a glorified fact checker.
Last I checked, the most runs in a game wins.
Actually, I am a fact checker.
And Greg Probst.
If you look at most Bond fans movie rankings, they have Casino Royale and Majesties in their top two. For me, these actually rank in the bottom part of my list. I mean, I love them, but they don't compare to Diamonds Are Forever.
Still stop getting Bond wrong!
Alrighty, guys, what's up? We are back with another special edition podcast. This is Justin of Baseball and Whatever. We got Greg, we got Vinny. We have an awesome guest tonight. As somebody who grew up in Chicago listening to 670 The Score, if you would have told me I'd be talking to someone that used to work for the station in a huge capacity, I never would have believed you. So this, for me, this ranks right up there with some of the other interviews we've done with Jason Kendall and things. So we are going to be talking to the former 670 Score producer, former host of Locked On Sox Podcast, and now host and contributor to CHGO. You know him, you love him. You've probably talked to him about the Sox on Twitter. That is Herb Lawrence. Herb, thank you so much for coming in, man. We appreciate it.
Really appreciate you guys with the invite. It's an awesome introduction. I don't deserve it, but I appreciate that very much, Justin.
We'll get into CHGO a little bit later, but we were talking before you hopped on about like that's kind of been our go-to for content now. What you guys are doing has been awesome. And as somebody who is trying to get in shape and running on the treadmill, it's so nice that I pretty much can turn on the TV and YouTube and watch any content that you guys put out each day. It gives me something to watch while I'm running. So thank you for what you're doing. For me, at least, I appreciate it. So thank you very much. But we're gonna dive in a little bit about the White Sox. We got some questions about how the season's going. I know they turned it around the other night, but they had that 8-game losing streak. Greg is the resident diehard Sox fan on the podcast. Vinny did not grow up in Chicago, so we give him some leeway. He is Cubs and Sox, being, out in, we like to say he's out in the boonies out west of Rockford now in Madison, Wisconsin. And then I grew up a Cubs fan, although I have to admit I was a Sox fan when I was a kid. I loved Frank Thomas and Ray Durham. Playing second base in Little League, I thought I was Ray Durham. I clearly wasn't, because here I am podcasting instead of playing in the pros. But yeah, so let's dive in. Greg, you want to start us off?
Herb, big fan. Thanks again for coming on. I love hearing all your discussion takes on the White Sox with CHGO now and Locked On Sox previously, which I want to get to later on. Mm-hmm. But just curious how the White Sox fandom started. I know with me, I came from a family of Cub fans, and they were annoying me with it pretty much as a young age. So I just was like, I'm going to root for the other team, who they hated, by the way, and that's how my White Sox fandom sort of started, and it's never turned back, although it is difficult a little bit with the White Sox right now and their current losing. And I do get heated. Justin and Vinny know that I'll send in voicemails to my own podcast that I'm on, screaming, bitching, swearing, all the above. But still a White Sox fan nonetheless. So how did it start for you being a White Sox fan?
Well, my parents were not sports fans. None of the people in my family really were sports fans. I mean, occasionally I would go to a Cubs game because my aunt would, see some of the players that she liked out there, and she would say, "Hey, you play baseball, you might like this game." So I enjoyed the Cubs. I think my first game was like '88, and then when I turned like 11 or 12, the White Sox were in their last season at Comiskey, and so they put on those pinstripes that they currently have now with the Old English SOX down the chest. And I was like, that looks cool. And of course, at that time, hip hop was going wild. They saw the new Sox caps in 91 when they moved into the stadium, and everybody was wearing them. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. I know at the time I was born and raised in like the Wheaton, Carroll Stream area.
Yeah.
And so everybody around me pretty much were Cub fans. Of course, in 89, they won the division. They had Maddox, Sandberg, all the people back in the day. So I'm a contrarian by nature. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be with all that Cub stuff. So I'm going to choose the Sox. I'm not a Cub hater. I just didn't want to be part of the in crowd.
Sure.
And I never really wanted to. So that's what I started. And I've been saying ever since, and I'm wearing my Illini shirt right now. And even though I didn't go to Illinois, I became an Illini and White Sox fan the same year. And I want to go back in time. You know how Biff went back in time and got the almanac. I just want to go back in time and just slap that 12-year-old kid for making me a White Sox and Illini fan for years of trouble. It is just
years of.
But
pain
I got
trouble,
one when I was 26. I got a World Series, and that same year the Illini went to the national championship game.
That's
so
right.
it was 2005 was a great year.
Ooh, that was
tough.
05 was my senior year of high school, and my math teacher at the time was a huge U of I fan. And I just remember, obviously, I didn't go to a big school after that, but riding that wave, oh my gosh! And then just to not finish the deal in the championship, but still, I mean, to go almost undefeated it's a heck of a run. So. Here's a question for you, Herb. In terms of, you mentioned you kind of been a Sox fan since the early 90s when they made that switch to the modern uniforms they have. Do you have a certain player, certain team in terms of year that when you associate with your Sox fandom? I mean, when you hear White Sox, are you thinking of Ron Karkovice in his days as the catcher? Or are you thinking of, Jim Parquet or, stuff like that? Who are you thinking of when you immediately think of your White Sox fandom?
My Twitter handle is Ecknerwall23, which is just Lawrence spelled backwards. And then the 23 is for Robin Ventura. When I was a kid, I mean, I kind of looked like Frank Thomas when I was playing baseball. So I wanted to pull away from that, even though he was a great player. So I was like, who's the second best player on that team? So I glommed on to Robin Ventura because great third baseman, power hitter. I think he still is like, if you look at the grand slams of all time, he's like 5th of all time. And all the real names on there are like Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez, real Hall of Famer type players. And then Robin Ventura. It's like, which one doesn't fit? He hit like 19 grand slams in his career, including the grand slam single he hit with the Mets in the playoffs. So I got onto him. And so those teams, and of course, if you're talking about Robin Ventura's career, you always got to bring up the Nolan Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Thing. That just hurts me every time. Like, Robin,
we were just talking about it before we started. So
it's so tough. Like you get your ass kicked by a 46-year-old. I mean, go out there and beat him up.
Yeah.
One of the two, but don't go out there and get your ass kicked. But Robin was probably the player I identified with the most with the White Sox. And then he hit two clutch home runs in a game, and the White Sox won it. And I remember he hit I don't know if it was a grand slam or a 2 or 3 run home run. He hit it. It was 10-8. Frank Thomas picked Robin Ventura, a grown man, up like a sack of potatoes and started like just celebrating with them. That's the game I remember. I don't remember the year specifically. It had to be like 92, 93.
Sure.
So those are the type of teams I remember. The 93 team, especially, I remember because they went to the playoffs and then summarily dismissed by the Blue Jays. And I remember that series because that series, Michael Jordan announces retirement.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember like nothing else mattered. Even though I was a big time White Sox, I was like, Jordan's retiring.
That's it. It's over. It's over. There's nowhere to go from here but down, So all right. Okay, here's a question for you, more of a hypothetical. Let's say you get off the podcast with us for whatever reason. Jerry Reinsdorf calls you, says, you know what, we love Rick Hahn, but we want to make Herb Lawrence GM effective tonight.
Okay.
Based on the way the season's going, what are you doing? What moves are you making? Are you holding pat and just hoping to ride this thing out?
I'm probably holding pat. Well, I'm 100% releasing Vince Velasquez. I wouldn't have signed him in the first place.
Sure.
Because I saw what he did in San Diego last year. Mm-hmm. Good. And there's got to be other players. Currently, Tanner Banks, who came in for relief of Michael Kopech today, and he hasn't allowed an earned run. He's a great story, a 30-year-old rookie who's doing very well with the White Sox this year. I would give him a shot because he's been a career minor leaguer for 10 years, and he's done pretty well, much better than Vince Velasquez has ever done. And I would maybe stem the tide with him until you either get back Lance Lynn at the end of May. Mm-hmm. I know Johnny Cueto pitched a start later, let's see, Charlotte tonight. Mm-hmm. So I would have probably wait until you get him and see what he's all about, see if he has any juice left in there. But for the hitting, they're just bad execution.
Yeah. As
a general manager, I don't know what I can
much
do.
You can do, yeah.
Because the back of the baseball card works.
Mm-hmm.
But this deadened ball, this damp weather, the atmosphere that's going on in Major League Baseball is not letting people hit the ball out of the ballpark. And the White Sox are a power hitting team. Mm-hmm. So they are very aggressive and they're hitting the hell out of the ball, but they're not going out of the ballpark and they're not patient enough to draw walks. So when they do hit the ball hard, there's no one on base.
Yeah.
So I just got to have, maybe if I'm the general manager, I don't have any power because my damn owner gave the manager all the power. I got to say something to him.
Yeah.
Like Rick Hahn apparently said something to Tony La Russa after Tony La Russa didn't walk Byron Buxton the other day and Byron Buxton walks it off. I got to say, hey, man, this is a championship caliber season and championship caliber roster. You, Frank Menachino, have to ask these guys to be a little bit more patient or talk to the players, Tim Anderson specifically, and say, you're the catalyst. You're the guy we give credit to for when the offense goes well. So you better get off your ass and do some work. You do better. Today was a piss poor effort. In the ninth inning, he had a ground ball to short, lollygagging out of the box. The ball goes a little awry. He gets tagged out by Carlos Santana right before he touches the bag. That can't happen. That permeates throughout the team. So maybe like a Billy Bean in Moneyball, turn over the table, is losing fun type of thing, and turn off the boom box.
Yeah.
And tell
with the bat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Jeremy Giambi, rest in peace. Right. Something like that. I don't know if that stuff works, but I would be furious. I know Rick Hahn is furious. He's a guy that takes losses tough.
Yes.
Yeah. They're not seeing, to your point, Herb, they're not seeing a lot of pitches up there. I mean, they are being aggressive. They're hitting the ball hard, but I mean, the at-bats are just, they're not patient. They don't look as great. They got like I think something's going on in their heads or something like that. But I'm getting back to your point about Vince Velasquez. And I know I was as a Sox fan, I was really in the minority about the White Sox offseason a little bit. And hindsight's a bitch because I'm kind of looking back now. I wanted another starting pitcher. Mm-hmm. I was back and forth on Carlos Rodon. Obviously, he's having a hell of a start, so that's not looking too good right now for us. Mm-hmm. But when I saw Velasquez, I was watching him in spring training a little bit. I'm like, okay, the stuff looks decent. Maybe. He finds a little more command. Maybe we have something in there as, like a swingman or long reliever sort of thing. Then the injuries hit. And the next thing you know, he's starting the home opener. I'm like, I know this is how this is going to go. This is not going to go well. We're going to see Vince Velasquez in San Diego and not like some of the early stuff in Philly. So that's not working out too well. So that kind of turned as like how I would expect it to go now that he is kind of in the starting rotation. But I was pretty, I don't even know why. I was pretty satisfied, I guess, with the offseason and they were just all smaller moves or whatever. But now I know with the injuries and just the way they're playing now, all of it looks like shit. So I don't know where I'm at with that. But I think if the bats heat up a little bit more, because it's a good hitting team, like you said, the back of the baseball card on paper, it looks great. But I think the offense is really going to have to heat up because it's really putting me in a bad place right now. Since I let myself get all hyped up about it, I'm like, yeah, Josh Harrison, I'm pumped. We have a second baseman. Maybe he can hit a little bit. I'm just like, no, he doesn't look like he can hit right now. So,
no.
Yeah, that's where they kind of put me. But
well,
I mean, the offseason I thought was lackluster, but I did not mind Rick Hahn not sending a qualifying offer to Carlos Rodon because, like you, I was like, all right, maybe he feels like he can get another quality starter that might be a little less expensive than Carlos Rodon and a little bit more durable, because all the injuries is the only reason.
Well, that's what made me worried. Many Sox fans, it's the injuries. So.
And so I said, there's a plan. You don't offer a qualifying offer to him and you give one to Kimbrel. There's got to be a plan there, and didn't really get a starting pitcher of major league quality. So we came into the season, even if you came in healthy with Lynn, Giolito, Cease, Kopech, and then Keuchel, that's 3.5 starters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Kopech, you've seen early, he can't finish games. He goes 5 innings.
Right.
That's it.
It's a limited. He's like a limited starting pitcher. He's definitely got like an inning cap on him. He's not going to go long. It's going to be a kind of like a bullpen day. So you kind of need the other starters to eat innings to give bullpen relief. So you're already kind of putting yourself in a weird spot as you play your series out. So I think that extra starting pitcher would have. I would have felt better. Well, I mean, then they got Cueto, but I don't really know what we're going to get from his ass. So,
and like you,
we'll see.
I was mad up until they traded for AJ Pollock. When they traded for AJ Pollock, I was like, man, that guy can hit right-handers, he can hit left-handers. He's an outfielder, an actual outfielder. I think Rick Hahn did a average job.
That might have been my favorite move of this. I would say that'd be my favorite move of the off-season spring training sort of deal. So that trade, I didn't think something like that was going to happen. I thought we were going to get like minor league trash or something because I was like, look, if we're going to trade this guy, like, can we get? I want something, that'll help us win now, not just a dump off. But I did not see a guy like AJ Pollock ever had. I'm glad it did, and I'm happy AJ's here. But I didn't see that trade going down. So that was probably my favorite offseason move, for 22 so far. So
interesting.
Yeah, he's really good. I haven't seen, like, he started the first series pretty well and then got hurt. Yeah. So it's going to take a little time. He went off for a paternity league, but I think eventually he'll have a solid season for the White Sox. And once the full team is back, this team will go. But we just got to stem the tide and hope the rest of the AL Central doesn't run away, especially those Minnesota Twins.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can get into the twin hatred in a little bit for sure.
Yeah, fuck them.
Exactly.
There you go. Enough said.
Herb, you alluded to the dead balls that seem to be like the third year in a row that MLB has tampered with the balls. First they were live, and now it seems like they're dead again. If do you like what Rob Manfred has been doing to try to change the game? And if so, what things have you liked and what things have you disliked that MLB is coming out with, banning the shift and the universal DH?
I do not like what Rob Manfred has done. You see what other commissioners are doing. To draw people, you need offense. Offense is the one that sells tickets. It gets people to view. So the NFL says you can't touch the quarterback. You can't touch the wide receivers. After a certain point, we're going to score more points. Basketball is the same thing. No more hand checking. Yep. Defenses are a certain way. We're going to score a lot of points. Rob Manfred's like, I see what you guys did, and fuck all that. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to deaden the ball. And then we're putting humidors at all ballparks. So it's going to have a factor, especially when it's humid. But right now, if they've checked the 10 stadiums that had humidors last year and that all 30 now have it, and they're seeing the 10 that had it last year and then versus this year, ball's not flying as much. The seams are raised on some of the balls, so the pitchers are pitching a little bit better. Movements on breaking balls are better, and then when it gets in the air, it just gets caught up a little bit more. So he is costing runs, and home runs are not getting hit, and it's a big time difference. I don't like that. The only thing I do like, two things I like that he made: the designated hitter change to be universal. I don't like pitchers hitting. Mm-hmm. They don't like themselves hitting.
Right.
And it's very occasionally you get the great thing of Bartolo Colon hitting a home run. Mm-hmm. That's a once in a lifetime thing. So let's get professional hitters to do their jobs and let pitchers do their jobs. They're specialists. They only pitch once every fifth day as starters. So then I liked the runner on second rule to start the overtime or extra innings. It's unnatural. It's not baseball. The games get over quicker.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's kind of like a sudden death overtime for when football had sudden death. You guys played a 9-inning game. It was 3 hours. You didn't decide that in the 3 hours. So we're going to play some bullshit version of the game that we had. And it didn't work out for the White Sox today because they lost 5-2.
Right.
For this last year where it's going to be implemented, the runner on second rule, I actually liked it. Initially, I was like, this is gimmicky. We're changing baseball. I hate it. Then when I saw it, I was like, that works. I like it. It gets the games over. And
it did. Yeah.
And I'm a fan of it.
It's definitely grown on me. I would argue that Rob Manfred, I didn't think it was physically possible to have a worse commissioner than Gary Bettman of the NHL, but he is doing his damnedest to give that guy a run for his money for worst commissioner. I mean, granted, like you said, I also like the DH. I like the shorter extra inning games. It's nice to have things moving along, but man, you just see that guy's face and it just makes me angry, which is a horrible thing to say about somebody, but it's true, you know.
That's the point we've reached. So
yeah. Well, on a positive though, if we shift gears to something positive, we had a few weeks ago, we had Sam Widerhaft, who is the Myrtle Beach Pelicans single A team for the Cubs. He's their head broadcaster. We had him on a while back to kind of talk about the Pelicans and just kind of see some of the up and coming Cubs prospects and talked about just what it's like to be in the minor leagues in general. And I know you've talked about in the past on Twitter how you've been to some of the Pelicans games. We have not made it to any. We're hoping to someday. What's it like out in Myrtle Beach at the Pelicans games, seeing a minor league game at that level as opposed to seeing like a game at guaranteed rate?
It is great. They have a good time out there. It's like they cater to Chicago. So the concession stands have Italian beefs. They have Vienna beef hot dogs.
Really?
All the good stuff. They have great beer selections. They have this thing called the beer bat. And so they just put a bunch of beer in, not a real bat, just like a plastic bat.
Sure.
And that's fun. I went down there because my fiance's dad moved down to Myrtle Beach. And so we went before the season started last year and we got a tour by one of the people who worked there. We just asked him and he's like, yeah. And he toured us around. We went into the clubhouse, all the good stuff, and saw the ballpark before any games happened. Then we went back in middle of the season, got to see Ed Howard. That was the main reason I went, because the Chicago guy, Ed Howard, down there, he was scrapping at the time, was really struggling in his first professional year. And then eventually he found his stroke. And now he's at higher AA and or single A in South Bend. But that ballpark is awesome. It's right next to a great entertainment section. There's like a Ripley's Believe It or Not right down the street.
Nice.
The Grand Strand is what they call it. It's right down the street. The boardwalk, the actual Myrtle Beach is there. And in the ballpark, there's like a beach area for just people just to mingle and have a good time. And I think it's in left field. It's your typical like minor league field otherwise, but I had an enjoyable time. Parking is good in and out. The prices were solid. So we took a flight, and I don't know if I know people don't like Spirit Airlines, but it's the only flight.
It's cheap.
That's goes from Chicago to Myrtle Beach daily. So it was $60 round trip. So I was like,
you can't pass that up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll be going down to Myrtle Beach, of course, to visit her father often, and maybe once a year. So once we do that, we're going to go down and get a Myrtle Beach Myrtle Beach Pelicans game, and get one of the hats, the little pelican on the front. They have different type of hats, and it's a very, very welcoming place down there, South Carolina. I know people hear the word South Carolina, they start thinking certain things, but nothing can be further from the truth. Myrtle Beach awesome. Is a very vacation resort type of town. A lot of people from different places down there in Myrtle Beach. It's a place to go, even if you're not going to the Pels game.
Sure. Yeah, it was awesome to hear just some of the promotions. Like you said, I know the beer bat thing blew up when their GM was drinking them, and during COVID they couldn't sell them, obviously, but he was drinking them and sending them the bats themselves. And we talked about the bat dogs that they have going and stuff like that. So
yes, I forgot about the bat dogs. Yeah,
definitely hoping to make it down there. And obviously, I feel like as a Cubs fan, it's probably more entertaining at this point to go see some of the up and coming people as opposed to what they're necessarily trotting out right now as a lineup. But
maybe you could see those players who were traded for Yu Darvish. They're probably down there, lottery tickets.
It's a dagger to my heart right there.
Sorry, man.
That's all right. I've moved on. I've gotten over it. It took a lot of therapy, but I've gotten over it. Vinny, I know we obviously, like I said, we grew up listening to the Score. I know, Vinny, you were the one that kind of rekindled our love with the Score over the last few years because we've, busy with work and stuff. So go ahead, Vinny.
Yeah, I was going to say, you worked at the Score for what, almost 20 years or 20 plus years?
Almost 20 years. It was 20 like in years, but I left a couple times. So
sure.
I had a couple stints of the Score, probably 15 plus altogether.
Okay. That's fantastic. I know since I've been listening since 2010, 2012. I know you've been there since I've been listening. So a big fan. I've always loved your production work on Lawrence's show.
Thank you.
It's always great to listen to his show. It's one of my favorites. But your experience working at the Score, what are some of your favorite moments working at the Score, favorite memories?
In 2003 or two, I think it was the February 2003, the Super Bowl was being held in San Diego. And so it was me, Mike North, Doug Buffone, and our sports director, Dan Zampillo, and a couple other people went to San Diego because back in the day, we used to go to Radio Row every year for Super Bowl and cover those things. And so we're going around speaking to different celebrities, and that thing is nice, but it doesn't stick in my head. The thing that sticks in my head is that one day Doug is just like, Doug, former NFL player. He's like, I want to find a casino. And San Diego, if you know San Diego, it has a lot of casinos, but they're not in the city proper. They're far as hell away. So we have to take a shuttle bus, probably like an hour, to a place called like Viejas. And I go, of course, young, brash, go and play some poker or some blackjack. I'm out within like 30 minutes. Done. I take like $200. As a young broke producer, I only have like $200. Doug is a older gentleman. He's playing slots. I'm like, come on, man, slots. Of course, Doug gets like $500, and then we bounce. And then he's like, hey, buddy, I'll take you out to breakfast for that tough loss. And so Doug Buffone and I are just sitting in a diner in San Diego, just having breakfast. Like it was probably like 11 o'clock at night. Wow. Eating breakfast at 11 o'clock at night, just talking about life. I was like, wow, this is pretty great. I know Doug as just a regular dude at that time. But then as I look back and since he's passed, I'm like, man, that's amazing. Like I had breakfast with Doug Buffone in San Diego. And it's one of the impetuses for me going to San Diego, because the day he passed away, I was having dreams about San Diego. I was like, and then I woke up and the announcement happened. I was like, that can't be like by happenstance.
It's a sign. Yeah.
So pretty much after that week, I told Mitch, I gave him my 2 weeks. I started planning to go to San Diego, went to San Diego like the next year, stayed there for a year, and then came back to the Score. So yeah, that's what I think about when I think about the Score. I think mostly about Doug, and then good times with Lawrence. Mostly that's the guy I work with mostly. So he's guided my career. He's been awesome to me the whole time. Never really was like a boss. He treated me more like an equal and guided me to, hey, I've done this. You should do this, that, the other. And never was I taking it as a bad thing. It's just like criticism, constructive criticism that made me a better producer, better host, better person. So Lawrence, also, I think about him when I think about the Score.
That's awesome. His the stuff he's doing on House of L too has been phenomenal to listen to too. I know I listened to his recent interview with Paul Conrad, which was really cool. Another WGN Morning News growing up, but I just remember in middle school watching, or I shouldn't say watching, but listening to like Score Overnights before it went to, I think it went to Sporting News after a while. And then, obviously, like you said, listening to, I remember calling into Lawrence's station, or Lawrence's show, I should say, sorry. As a kid, as a high schooler, this stupid kid wanting to talk about, the Tribune needs to sell the Cubs and they're never going to win until they do. What the hell did I know? I'm just some punk ass kid. But yeah, he always takes the time
to do
listen.
Something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but now they're horrible. I don't know if that's a whole other thing, but yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, it's so cool that, we're all in our 30s now, and for most of us, like catching on to sports radio and AM and talk radio in high school, and then it's still listening to it, and some of those personalities are still on the air, and obviously they've moved their way up over time and things like that. It's definitely like a Chicago institution. I feel like, at least for us, because it's been around since we were pretty much kids. So.
And you go ahead. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, you mentioned Doug Buffon too, and I just love listening to him on Bears post game and everything. Even when they lost, because Doug was just like more fired up, and he was just even then, like over the airwaves, you just felt like how larger than life he was just by his passion, just by the way he was upset and angry. He was always such a great guest and awesome to listen to on the Score and Bears post game and everything like that. So,
yeah, I think Doug, we played it then, and then after he passed, we used to play it every year that the Bears were bad. Doug came to the realization at the end of his career and end of his life, he's like, the Bears are a loser. It's like, this is a loser organization, and they won't change until things change here. And I was like, Doug knew. That broke his heart to say that, because he played when he retired. He was the longest tenured Bear. He played the most games, and then Patrick Manley subsequently broke that. Yeah, but he cared. Like you said, Greg, you could feel that him and OB still with us. Oh yeah, care about the Bears winning and losing, because that's their legacy. They put so much blood, sweat, and tears in that, and they can't stand to see what's going on. And of course, they play for the old man, George Halas. Yeah. So George wouldn't be dealing with any of this stuff, and his descendants are ruining his lovely team.
I've tried so many times to find a new team. I think it was on Lawrence's show. You guys used to have the wheel. There were so many times I'm like, I need to just, bite the bullet, find a new team. And for some reason, I keep getting pulled into the shit show that is the Chicago Bears. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me, but it's a good case study.
I was going to say, you might be looking at a future employee of the Chicago Bears if that Arlington Heights move ever happens.
That's true.
I work down the street from the Arlington racetrack. I work for the school district where former score guy Adam Harris actually works too. So he and I chat sports every time he's at some of the buildings. But I know the Bears, when the move happened, there's going to be a huge hiring wave for the village. So a bunch of us in maintenance, we're just be like, hey, let's go, drop this district. Let's go, work for the Bears and get screwed over by them. So just some, closer drive. Yeah, probably for the same shitty pay or something like that. But
hopefully by that time,
for the Bears,
Jeffrey Bezos or some rich billionaire that has a bunch of money owns the Bears, or at least some stake in them.
Justin Fields is still their quarterback. Hopefully, doing good. I mean, we'll see, but I don't want to get my hopes up. But
Herb, I was gonna have a follow-up question. So. I love the radio. I love what you guys do. I can't imagine the amount of work that you have to do as a producer, behind the scenes and everything. But I'm curious as what your least favorite job you had to do at the radio, what that was.
It is cutting tape for Bears press conferences every day. Like they're like, hey, cut up Chris Tabor. No. Like I gotta listen to the 12-minute interview of Chris Tabor with the media and then cut up things that I know are not going to be used. I don't mind cutting up. Well, I didn't mind cutting up things that I know are going to be used. So when Matt Nagy used to speak, and the 2 times that Ryan, I forget his name,
Ryan Pace
used to speak, I don't mind cutting them up. I thought they were boring, but I know they were going to be used. When cutting up tape where no one the next day it's going to be played and it's going to be erased right after the next day, it's just so mind-numbing. But you knew also if that wasn't cut up, the next morning you'll get a call from the PD, Mitch. Hey man, why wasn't this cut up? Like, because I don't give a damn. I made an executive decision that no one needs to hear ever what Chris Tabor needs to say, or Juan Castillo, or any of the assistant coaches. I barely even want to hear what the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator have to say. So this is just useless stuff. But this town is a Bears town, so we at the Score, like any good sports station, has to talk about the Bears even when they're bad, and then force some actualities onto the air. So that's the job I hated the most, because no job was and no job will ever be beneath me. But I just know that if somebody is not going to use this, I'm just wasting my time. I'm doing work just to be busy, and no one needs to do that. Just send me home.
Disheartening to have to do that.
I'm so like, that was not one of the selling points. Like, once I left the Score, I was like, man, I don't never have to cut a single ever piece of tape ever again. And it's the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, that's great. I love how so specific that was too. You had that answer. It was
ready to go. Yeah.
Because it's just the pits. Like, I'm sure there's people doing it right now who are growing up in the business and they can see it's garbage, but they're like, okay, this is the growing pains. Eventually I'll get to a level where I don't have to do this. But yeah, it's always just useless.
The Chris Tabor name drop made that so much better too.
I completely forgot about him, which, oh boy.
Yeah, that's why I know, and I know that he's kind of good, but no one cares. Who cares about the kicker? The kicker always made his kicks. The snapper always made his snaps. The punter was all right. So what is he talking about? Unless there was a return of a touchdown, which barely happened.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, who cares?
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Herb, I wanted to just say first, like, how huge a fan I was of Locked On Sox with you and Tanny. That was actually my first.
Thank you.
That was my drive to work podcast, because it was always just the perfect amount of time. You guys went between like a half hour and 45 minutes. I'm like, this just fits in perfectly right there. And I did enjoy it too with Sean on it. I forget who's doing it now. I haven't listened to it.
Nick Morowski.
That's right. That's right.
Good Guys Talk Back.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, no, it was always, and you guys did answer my, did answer. I mean, when Tony La Russa was hired as the White Sox manager, I know how you guys were. I wrote into the show a couple times about, me bitching about how much I hated it. You guys were kind enough to read in a couple other my goofy ass emails I sent in. But if I remember, I caught on that show kind of midway as it was going on. Chris Tano already had joined, but you kind of started that solo when you joined like the Locked On network. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just curious. We're about a year into podcasting right now. So we are fairly new. Herb, you're obviously in radio and everything. So I wonder if you could just kind of touch on how that process started. You taking on that podcast solo, how you adapted to podcasting, and just kind of like that process. Anything you can tell us that would help us out as we try to accomplish whatever we're trying to do here, get noticed, do this so we don't have to do our day jobs or anything like that. Because I mean, it was really, I know I've done a couple, mini pods for this, and, listening to you go solo, that kind of helps me kind of make what I'm saying more entertaining, because it is hard. I find it very hard, and I'm not in this business to try and talk to myself solo. And you were obviously a very, very good at it, a pro. So anything you want to share about taking that on?
It started with, weirdly enough, and now he's back being my teammate, Jay Zawoski. He was working Locked On Blackhawks, and he came to Tanny and I and was like, hey, I've told the guys at Locked On that you guys would be perfect for the show. And we're like, yeah, that'll be great. I was gung-ho from beginning. Tanny was like, I don't know yet. It was probably October of 19. And I was like, I'll do it. And if you come over eventually, I'll still hold your seat. If not, I'll just do it solo. And so all I did was just study what my subject was that day. Locked On told us 15 to 30 minutes. We went over that routinely. Yeah. But when I was solo, it's hard as hell to just be talking to yourself.
Yeah.
And what's going on over the air, but initially it's just you talking to yourself. And for the most part, I wanted to do it without any edits because I know I stumble a couple times. I have pregnant pauses, but I wanted that to be real. I wanted people to be listening to real thoughts in time. I don't want it to be pristine because they don't sound unnatural. I think the biggest thing for anybody doing any type of work, as they say, is repetition. Do it enough.
Yeah.
Find your voice and be authentic. Like I see people who try, and when I was a youngster, I used to try to be Stuart Scott or different people that I saw or heard on the radio. And I don't have a traditional radio voice, so I was trying to radio, try to make my voice sound more traditional. But people don't want that. They want natural. They want you. If your personality hits people, they'll like it. If they don't, you can't do anything about it. So there's going to be criticism. Some you got to fish out what the constructive criticism from the hate. And so you got to listen to what you're doing. So once you turn out a podcast, I would listen back to it.
Yeah. Just
to make sure there wasn't anything bad about the podcast and I'm not sending out bad quality.
Sure.
But then I would listen. It's like, I got to improve on that. I need to improve on reads. I need to improve on this, that, and the other. It's hard to hear yourself. It's hard to hear your own voice because you don't like what your voice sounds like because it's different from what you're hearing in the inside. But you need to do that. I think it's vital for me to do that, to hear what I'm saying and how I'm saying it and getting the message across. Because the medium, now the medium turns into video and audio, but radio was all audio. So, and the podcast was all audio on Locked On Sox. So that's all they're getting. So you have to have, I see your guys' equipment's perfect. You're crisp. Like the sound is very valuable. Like people will get irritated if there's just a little hiss, because that's what I used to have. Sometimes I used to record it. Like I have an iPhone. I used to record it on my iPhone. And so the quality wouldn't be great. So I had to upgrade that and all those things. So,
that's definitely how we started out. Yeah.
The last thing I wanted was somebody turning me off because of the audio, not because of the content. So I would just say, find your voice, like do whatever you are and be whoever you are. People will gravitate to it, or yay or nay. And if you feel like you're going too far off of who your personality is, just recalibrate, get back to who you are. Because of the time I get off of where I am, and I'm generally a nice person, but then I sometimes go off on tangents, and I think I like the Rick Hahn thing with me. I don't like, I think people think that I don't like Rick Hahn, and Rick Hahn himself, I think, doesn't think I like Rick Hahn, but I have to check myself sometimes and say, hey man, you need to say some words to these people to make sure that they know that what you're saying is not against the person.
Sure.
It's against the job. So I would just say, make sure that you're true to yourself, and then check yourself every once in a while and make sure that you're not going too far with your criticisms if you're doing a podcast for a sports or something like that, or somebody in a public eye. Make sure you're fair to them, I would say.
Yeah. No, that's incredible advice. And I think that's so interesting you say that, because I remember listening back to the first episode, we were just kind of like, oh man, the sound quality is terrible.
Oh, we were using PlayStation microphones.
Right.
Yeah.
We're reading off a script. And then I asked Justin, this was early on, I'm like, Justin, can we like put the explicit tag on our podcast? And he's like, yeah, all you have to do is click a button.
Just check a box.
And then I came on the next episode and I was like, guys, fuck the Minnesota Twins. And I think that's when I became myself on the podcast. It became more natural to me. So I just kind of let it go. I'm like, here we go. This is what it's going to be now. So.
Well, I mean, I know for us, obviously the three of us are all brother-in-laws. So it was kind of, this whole thing was born from, during the lockdowns, we didn't get to see each other. So it was more of a, let's just have a Zoom call and talk. And then we turned it into a podcast, and we figured our spouses and our parents would listen as pity downloads. And thankfully, a network was willing to take a chance on us, and it kind of grew a little bit. Obviously, there's plenty of room for improvement for both us and the show quality and all that. So it's been just kind of cool to see. But I do like you earlier you brought up CHGO. Obviously, we've been kind of really diving in deep into the stuff you guys produce, both video and audio wise. But can you just kind of talk about, and I know we're running short on time, so I'll try and be brief, but
don't trip. I have plenty of time.
Okay. What would you say? I mean, what's it like being on the ground floor of something so new? Obviously, I know I believe there's was a DNVR in Denver and then PHNX in Phoenix. Kind of everybody's kind of coming about at the same time, but what's it like being on the ground floor, being a creative lead in this medium, I guess. And then also, obviously we know a lot about CHGO, but can you just kind of explain maybe for people that are listening that aren't familiar with it?
CHGO started by Brandon Spano from DNVR. He wanted to be hyper local sports coverage. So he called me probably in January, asking if I had any interest in doing a hyper local sports podcast. He said podcast. And so I was like, yeah, I did Locked On, I'm good for it. And then he's like, yeah, we're doing YouTube too. I was like, I don't want people to be watching. It's like daily and live. I was like, God, man, damn. So the edits are not going to be there. None of that stuff's like, I'm just going to be on TV all the time. That's weird. YouTube all the time. But he said, this is his biggest market. Probably not going to go any bigger than Chicago. So sorry, LA and New York, but he just wanted to see, and he had found out about me from our content producers, Kevin Kaduk and Eric Edholm from Yahoo. And what those guys did for me, I am this is pretty much the dream job I've always envisioned, talking about the Sox every day, 5 days a week. Sean Anderson, who worked with me at the Score, is our host. And then Vinny Duber from NBC Sports Chicago is our beat guy. So that's what we do. Sean and I usually are in studio pregame talking about the White Sox and getting people ready for it. And then we watch the game at the studios, and then we give a post game. And Vinny usually joins us from the ballpark at home games. And then on road games, he's in the studio with us. So it's just amazing that we're getting paid like professionals to do something that is a startup, essentially, in Chicago. And I have it akin to The Athletic when it started, where John Greenberg just pretty much hired some people and said, hey, there's subscriptions here if you want to join us. And some venture capitalist is like, yeah, we're just going to stake you for a couple of years. We're not going to make any money for years on end, but we believe in this. This is going to be the wave of the future. So, yeah, I'm very privileged, very honored that Brandon Spano, Kevin, and Eric Edholm believed in me and what this whole vision is, and to give us this platform. So we do a White Sox podcast with Sean and Vinny, and then there's a Blackhawks, Bulls, Bears, and Cubs, and a Sky one. We're gonna eventually get a Red Stars and a Fire podcast going, but we cover all the teams 5 days a week, and it's very enjoyable. And if you guys haven't listened to it, just give it a listen. The podcasts are free. Some of the content on all CHGO are free. They're not under a firewall or a paywall. And, if you become a member, you get all that stuff for free. So I'm not trying to advertise, but if you guys have watched or listened, I hope you like what we do.
Yes.
And you come back.
And
great.
No harm, no foul.
The merchandise is great too. I'm trying to decide. I definitely got to pick up a shirt because I love the four stars, the Chicago flag. Yeah. I was just telling these guys, and the Cubs logo that they came up with is, I love it. You could replace that on the uniforms tomorrow, and I'd be okay with it.
I appreciate that.
I genuinely mean that too. As somebody who hates the crawling Cub logo, and I've bitched about this on the show before. I know I definitely love the graphic design that you guys have been doing too. So.
That is our guy Eric out there in DNVR. DNVR has pretty much held our hand through this whole process. They came out like the week before our launch and then stayed that same week. The guy who made all the logos, Eric, was perfect. There's a guy named Adam Maris who does the Nuggets thing. He was good. RK Ryan Konensberg, and then Ryan. I forgot what the guy who does the video, his name is Ryan also. They're just the perfect partners. They've been holding our hands, and then once they knew that we were good to go, let us go off in the wild, and we've done our thing. But speaking of shirts, that baseball and whatever that Greg's got on.
Oh yeah.
You guys selling that one?
Right, we do. We our network hooked us up. We got coffee mugs, shirts, baseball tees, and hoodies, Herb. So you let us know. We can I don't
need a hookup. I'm gonna buy that. I'm buying that.
Well, thank you.
I'm buying that, and you'll see it on CHGO. I wear shirts of everybody.
Shit, dude.
Man. If you invite me onto your podcast, I'm buying your merchandise, man.
Well. Damn, we got to have Herb on more, guys.
I'm here. I'm available.
Well, thank you. I guess, Greg, I know you wanted to wrap up. We got to talk video games. So obviously our show, we always do baseball in the first half. And then our normal episodes, we do a second half where we do top 5 lists. We talk music, movies. We just did top 5 Beatles, top 5 albums. It was told to me that I have horrible taste in Beatles music, I believe. Right, Vinny?
Yes, that's very true.
That's a running joke now. But
I don't really know the Beatles album. So why was your Beatles?
I like all the Beatles stuff before, like the British Invasion, the really poppy stuff. I really enjoyed because I used to be able to play that growing up in marching band and stuff in band.
Like She Loves You, yeah.
Yes, the real cheesy stuff. And then you get to like Yellow Submarine and Sgt. Pepper, and I kind of doze off a little bit on those, but. Those are more Vinny style. Yeah. Vinny, what was this? Blackbird?
Yeah,
Blackbird. I was told Mockingbird. Sorry. I'm antagonizing. I apologize. But
go check that episode out if you haven't already.
Yeah. But we've also done a lot of video game stuff. So I know Greg is our resident MLB The Show correspondent, I guess, as well. So
it's went to as far as what we developed a mini pod called Countdown to MLB The Show, which we try to connect with other content creators, whatever, at least try to put the stuff out there. But it was, just mostly coverage of all the live streams leading up to the release. And Herb, I know you're a bit of MLB The Show guy. I've never heard you say that before on Locked On. So I'm just thinking, how are you enjoying this year's title 22? And hopefully you can play some games online. I know they've had the traditional server issues and everything, but what you playing on it? What system you playing it on, and how you enjoying it this year so far? I don't know how much you have. I have virtually no time to play. So any chance I do, I pop it on. I do some little videos for our channel on YouTube. I plan to do more with Road to the Show. But yeah, how are you enjoying 22 so far this year?
I initially thought it was very glitchy. It was weird.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've played it lately and they fixed most of the glitches. John Shambi and John Singleton are fine. I think it's an upgrade from what they had with Matt Vasgersian. Yeah, I liked Dan Plesac and D-Row they had. I don't know why they got rid of those two, but maybe you get rid of the whole crew. You don't have any insults there. Matt Vasgersian doesn't feel like he's getting bad. I just think he has fallen off from where he used to be when he was just the San Diego Padres play-by-play guy, but that's neither here nor there. The game is awesome. I think the other day I happened to go against, I don't know who. I play on PlayStation 4, and I was playing versus somebody on a different platform, and this had to be somebody who's just started playing MLB The Show or a child that doesn't know what he or she's doing. And Dylan Cease threw 26 strikeouts in a perfect game, or no hitter. He had a couple pass balls that people reached base, so it was 10-1. It was my first or second no hitter I've thrown on the game, and he wasn't even the player of the game. It was Yasmani Grandal who hit 4 home runs. Wow, so this was an online ranked game, and I was like, I've never done this before. Firstly, because if you get that far, somebody's quitting. That guy, like, I'm done. And kudos to that kid. He took his loss like a man or a girl or a grown woman.
Especially
just a huge loss. Like, I was beating this person probably 10-0 in the 7th, or not 10-0. It was like 9-0. Couldn't get 10 because been the mercy rule, but took their loss like a G. I was happy. I wanted to write them a message. Hey man, great game.
Seriously, especially in online ranked.
Yeah, it's like that is a tough thing to do. Just to sit there. That's a great lesson you just learned right there. Taking your loss like a good person, and it was one of the biggest accomplishments I've had on that game. It was awesome to play. I just played like you in my spare time. My fiance is going to law school, so she's doing finals right now. This is the time I get to play it the most because she's preoccupied with her thing. We have a little dog. He's knocked out, and then I turn on the game for a couple online ranked games, and it's just a nice time to pass and just listen to music while I'm doing it. It's an enjoyable time. The White Sox are actually good in the game, not like they are on the field. And they haven't taken Aloy off of the online game yet, so he's crushing. He's hitting line drive home runs. I like to play. I don't know where you like to play the most, Greg, but I like to play at the Polo Grounds the most.
I love the Polo Grounds.
Weird. It's like 300 down both lines and like 500 straight center. And the power alleys are even bigger.
No, I'm right with you there. Yeah, I will play online sometimes. I mean, with the server issues they had, it's been, difficult. And I'm not talking, I'm talking more just like online ranked or just online exhibition, whatever it is. I'm not diving too much into Diamond Dynasty, but most people, you get a couple good innings or something, or just one good inning, and then that person dips or whatever. So, I mean, that's the end of that. But I get into stuff with like franchise mode. I do fantasy franchise where I control all 30 teams. Wow. I do fantasy legend postseason, short postseason for those modes where I like to do that to kind of play on more ballparks and stuff like that. So Road to the Show, I'm doing like, 10 different things all at the same time while I have no time to play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the case, the disc, it's all pristine as I'm playing on my PS5. I also play it on my PS4 too. Because my PS5 actually just got out of the shop from Sony because it went bust, with just over a year of ownership. But I'm overall enjoying it. You were right, though, Herb. It did come out. It's already on its 4th patch right now.
Wow.
So it did come out pretty rough, glitchy, missing content, missing items. So initially, I was very upset. I was like, "Oh, this is all this excitement. I created his own stupid little mini pod, and it all went bust." But they're slowly.
Did you get it like early too? So you're like,
"Oh yeah, I got the early access. I had the steel book and everything." Oh yeah, I was off that for so long because the one with Aaron Judge, I think it was 18. When I was all into that in that game, they totally changed that game up without even telling anyone. So I was so pissed. So I'm like, I'm done with the show. I'm done with the steel books, all that shit. And like a week later, I was like, all right, fuck, I'll buy it. So, but yeah, no, I love it. It's, arguably one of my favorite video games. And I'm starting to, like I said, I'm starting to do more stuff for this podcast on our YouTube channel and just playing it in general. And I was like, I feel like another good one. So
I haven't picked up the show since I think Bryce Harper's version when he was on the cover. So 19, I might need to pick the new one up.
It's free agency year.
Yeah, I'm still going back and popping in Tony La Russa baseball 95 and RBI 94. So I don't. Yeah, those games I can finish a lot quicker before I got to feed the baby. So, all right. Well, Herb, before we let you go, whenever we have a guest on, we like to wrap up with doing some quick hits. We're going to ask you some random baseball, sports related questions. First thing that pops into your mind, you just tell us what you think. All right.
All right.
All right. Besides the White Sox, second favorite baseball team or second favorite baseball logo?
The Padres is the favorite baseball team.
Okay. Yeah. I loved Tony Gwynn growing up. He was like my idol. Man, could that guy hit. Favorite stadium you've ever been to? Could be baseball, could be, football, basketball, whatever.
PNC Park in Pittsburgh.
I've heard that's like top of the list of people. Whenever we talk to Jason Kendall, he said he loved PNC.
Yeah.
I mean, just, being around there. So
I've heard you mention that plenty of times on Locked On Sox too. I'm like, everyone says that PNC is just amazing,
And we haven't gone to Oracle because it got canceled in the pandemic in 2020. We had tickets to go out there. We're going back this year. It's like July 4th weekend. So people tell me that that's the best ballpark, and I'll be the judge of that. I'm looking forward to it, though. I don't like the city of San Francisco too tough. I've been there. It's cold as hell and very expensive.
Love it.
Favorite sports video game of all time?
MVP Baseball 2005, I believe.
Oh,
great call.
That's a good game. I played so much.
Arguably
of that
the best.
Broke.
Yeah.
Oh boy, man, that was a rough summer for me. That's all I did. If you were a hitter in the MLB, what would your walk-up song be?
Ooh, I think it would be. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. The song by Tribe Called Quest called "Electric Relaxation." It's not really a hype song. It just makes me feel good. It's like a mellow song. It's real nice.
That's a good pick. Favorite athlete of all time?
Favorite athlete of all time happens to be a guy I share a birthday with. I didn't watch his career all throughout, but he is a great person and no longer with us is Pat Tillman.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. He's sacrificed himself for his country and gave up a lot of money doing so.
Did.
So I there's nothing better. And he was a great Arizona Cardinal football player.
That's true. That is true. Favorite baseball movie of all time?
I got to go with 8 Men Out, even though I know it's not, a great movie. Just about the White Sox. It's pretty good. It's historically accurate. Yeah, especially with Joe Jackson, with V.B. Sweeney's portrayal instead of Joe Jackson with who was it? Ray Liotta in Field of Dreams.
Oh yeah,
like a right-handed guy talking like he's from New York, even though he's from South Carolina.
Yep. Yeah, that's that. That whole movie, Field of Dreams. I will admit, I don't know how, but I made it about 30 years without seeing that movie. And the first time I saw it, I don't know what I expected, but that was not what I expected when I saw that movie.
You expected more from the build-up, right?
A little bit. Like I love, the scenes at the field and on the farm, but once they start going into, is it not Moonlight? Is it Moonlight Brown?
Moonlight Graham.
Moonlight Graham. Sorry. Once they start going into all this, I'm like, wait a minute. Where did Kevin Costner just went back in time? When did this become Back to the Future? It threw me off. It really threw me off. So
yeah, and I don't know if you guys have been to Dyersville and to see the actual Field of Dreams. It's worth it if you want to go there. I know they've built the stadium next to it, and the Cubs will play there this year versus the Reds.
Yep.
I don't know if you're going to go to that, but I think it's worth it just to see the Field of Dreams. If you've seen the movie, it's a nice place, and you can play on the field too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe didn't Frank Thomas just buy an ownership stake in it?
He did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's something I wouldn't mind doing. I know, Vinny, your family went out there when you were kids, right?
Yeah, when I was little. I don't remember the trip at all, but I see pictures of it, and I'm like,
there you go.
Yeah,
I was there.
You were there physically and spiritually, I guess, in a way. All right, last one, Herb. If you weren't in broadcasting, podcasting, or at CHGO, what would the career be that you would have or have chosen?
I think I would have chosen to be a teacher, not like a real teacher because I don't know things, but a gym teacher. Gym teachers they had the best life to me. Like they get to play sports or they get to tell kids to play sports. Driver's ed would have been great. Like teaching kids how to drive correctly because I see so many terrible drivers out here. And I'm just like, man, we should have better driver's ed teachers.
So true.
I would love to be a teacher because to pass the legacy on to somebody else to be a little bit better than I was.
I can, as a history teacher who works with many PE teachers, they got a nice gig. So I think you might be onto something. I kind of question what I was thinking at times going into history.
The internet is a great thing. And I remember when I wasn't a lot around when I went to high school and I graduated in 96, but I looked at what teachers make and what my school district makes, District 200 makes specifically when I was a kid. Yeah, I would love to be a school teacher. I mean, it'd be hard. Like the job is actually hard, but a gym teacher, just the right, like, hey, we're going to play some bombardment this day. We're going to play some softball the next day,
some pickleball,
Yeah, exactly. Some badminton, get out the things. I would love it because, activities, get the kid all ready for something. And we didn't have a pool. That's the only problem. Wheaton, you think it's got a couple of dollars, but no. We didn't have a pool. Lawrence keeps on talking about his natorium he had at home at Flossmoor. My fiance had a swimming pool in her thing. I was like, God damn it. I would love to have a swimming pool. I know people have body issues, but man, just to not sweat, or if you do, you're in the water. So it didn't matter. That's the only problem I had in high school. I used to sweat all the time and my gym clothes were terrible and rancid. Then I had to go to some other class. So that would be my dream. A teacher.
The amount of chlorine that was put at Oak Lawn Community High School, where I went to high school, man, it was like bleaching your hair. There was so much chlorine in that thing. Holy cow. Well, that wraps it up. Herb, thank you so much for taking the time. Like we said, check out CHGO. You can find Herb on Twitter at Enerkwall. Sorry, I always say that wrong when I'm telling people. 23 Ecknerwall. Sorry, thank you. And obviously, check out allchgo.com for their content. The Sky, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, the White Sox, the Cubs, the Bears, and then also it's kind of exciting to hear the Fire and the Red Stars are coming along too. That's excellent to hear. Is there anything else you'd like to plug? Any side projects? Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on because you can call me or text me or sorry I was late today. I'm available. If I'm available, I'll come on. It's just sometimes I forget. So just remind me because I am absent-minded. And that's why I have to have my fiance do things for me. She's like, hey, you got to do this, that, and the other today. So yeah, I am willing because this was fun times. And I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you, Justin.
We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Vinny.
Well, thank you. So that's it. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us on YouTube, search Baseball and Whatever, Twitter at Baseball and What, Instagram at Baseball and Whatever, Facebook.com/Baseball and Whatever. You can find us on the Belly Up Sports podcast app on Roku TVs. Our show broadcasts on Sunday afternoons. If you want to check it out, if you have a Roku Smart TV, you can also call the voicemail/text line 1-913-808-3278. I'm sure we'll have an angry voicemail from Greg all about the White Sox coming up, and I can have fun trying to censor it and make it funny by putting in a bunch of bleeps and bloops in there for you, Greg. So
I see what Herb said a couple days ago. You can't even get mad anymore. I've exhausted all my anger. I just call in to say hi. So
I don't know what's worse. The anger is gone because you're so exhausted, or oh man, that's
when Liam Hendricks come in again. You'll
I'll hear it.
I've hated Aaron Bummer for years already, so that's all exhausted. But
so there you go. You can email us at baseballwhatever@gmail.com, or our official podcast network email is baseballwhateverpodcast@bellyupsports.com. We are on all available networks: Apple, Spotify, Google, Anchor, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, rolling in that Jeff Bezos money. So that is it. We'll be back next week with another episode of Baseball and Whatever. Herb, thank you so much. Vinny, Greg, I will see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.
All right, take care, everyone.
Yeah.